Okay guys, it's day 9 of trying to master tray flips in 10 days. This is our last day of practice before the finale, where the goal is to land 5 tray flips in a row. If you guys have been following along this whole time, you might know that this has been a struggle for me. I mean, I've struggled with tray flips for years, like a lot of you probably have as well. But I feel like I've lived a year's worth of struggles in the last, 8 days of practicing tray flips. Each day I learn something different, and slowly and surely I'm working my way towards really finding the proper technique that works for me. But so far, my tray flip is not dialed in, and today is the last day to practice. For tomorrow, we try and finally meet our goal of 5 in a row. So at the end of last video, I talked about that I had learned some things and that I would tell you guys what those things were in this video. I feel like these are a couple things that are real game changers for me. And so this may seem a little ambitious, but today I want to try and land 40 tray flips. They can be flat ground, out of the bank, whatever it is, but today I want to land 40. I do believe that the techniques that I'm going to tell you about right now genuinely can help me get to 40 today. So let's get out into the skate park and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, and then we'll see if we can reach our goal of 40. All right, so on one of the days I talked about some tips from P-Rod's trick tip, specifically how he scoops his tray flips. But I went back and watched his trick tip and I noticed something else that he's doing with his front foot that I feel like it's part of the reason why I struggle getting the rotation on tray flips. So what this thing is when you watch P-Rod talk about scooping and flicking in his trick tip, when he describes the flick, he motions with his foot how he flicks. And with a kick flip, you're flicking off to the side over there, right? It's going that direction. But when P-Rod demonstrates how he flicks his tray flips, he literally goes that direction, almost like he's flicking diagonally forward, right? And I started thinking about this. Why could that be? The more I thought about it, I came to this conclusion. When you're popping a tray flip, you put all the pressure right here to try and crunch your bushings and pop off the corner of the tail. And what that does is it tilts your board like that. As you pop, it goes up like that. And so what happens is if your foot is trying to flick off this side of the board, because your board is tilting, your foot is gonna hit the edge of the board. It's gonna stop it from rotating. So by lifting his foot over here, that gives the board enough space so that he can crunch his bushing right here, and then this side of the board can tip. That way he can get a clean pop right off the corner, and that starts the tray flip rotation. Not only that, but because the board is rotating, in order to flick the board, you can't flick where you'd flick for a kickflip, because if you flick over here, the board's gonna be over here, right? So in order to flick your tray flips, you've got to flick where the board is going. So you've got to flick 45 degree over this way. So not only does this get your foot out of the way to let the board tip, it also allows you to actually flick the board where it's at. So that way you're not stopping the rotation or stopping the tilt and pop. You're allowing it to tilt and pop and then guiding it with your front foot, flicking at a 45 degree angle. That way you can actually kick the board. So a lot of people talk about this like a scissor kick, where you go back with this foot and forward with this foot, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today, along with one other thing, which is if you watch anybody that's good at tray flips, they generally have their shoulders facing open. Maybe they're diagonally like pointed that direction, or they're completely open, but very rarely do you see people do tray flips with their shoulders closed, like in line with the board. The only time you really see it is when people are doing switch tray flips. And if you notice, when people do switch tray flips, because their shoulders are so closed, they end up having to jump really far forward to get to the board. Whereas with regular tray flips, most people that are good at them, they open up their shoulders because they're comfortable. And by opening up their shoulders, they are able to balance their weight on top of the board and let the rotation happen underneath them without having to fully like jump this way. So if your shoulders and chest are faced this way, that's pretty much the only direction you're gonna be able to go. Whereas if your shoulders are open, you're able to have counterbalance and stay above the board. So the first thing that I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna warm up just working on pop shove it, but I'm gonna focus on trying to open up my shoulders just as if I was going to tray flip. So my shoulders are I'm gonna try and face them forward and imagine I'm doing a tray flip, but I'm just gonna do a shove because that's a trick I'm comfortable with. So it's gonna get me into the idea of jumping with my shoulders open The other thing is I'm gonna practice scooping my tray flips. When I was practicing scooping, I wasn't aware of what my shoulders were doing, if I was facing forward, to the side, anything. So I'm gonna practice a few more scoops. And again, think about this open, the shoulder position of staying open and then flicking diagonally forward. That way my foot is not stopping the rotation and my board can fully crunch and do the rotation. So that's the idea today. Hopefully it's a good day. 40 is definitely a big goal, but literally our last session working on tray flips before, you know, like the grand finale. So I think the goal is today, try and get to 40, maybe take a day off, see if we can get 5 in a row on day 10. So I think I'm gonna do 10 of these open shoulder pop shove. Normally I close my shoulder for pop shove it, and I think that's why my pop shove it isn't translating to my tray flips. So I think by practicing like this, it should help me take that same motion and build on it into a tray flip. Okay, so now that I've done a bunch on flat ground, I'm gonna try and do the same thing out of the bank. Just try and keep my shoulders open and get used to jumping from that position, generating power in a position that I believe is going to help me get tray flips in the end. So, shoulders open. Something along those lines. That's feeling a lot better. Let's do 8 more. Best one yet. I haven't like just practiced pop shoves like this in like a long time. All right, last one. All right, so now I'm gonna practice the scoop with my shoulders open, and then, like I talked about earlier, lifting my foot like diagonally forward. But also now, instead of doing a shove it, where with the shove it you try and keep your heel down, I'm gonna try and stand on my tippy toes. So shoulders open, tippy toes. Yeah. I'm not gonna do too many of these because I don't want to get caught up in the habit of not landing. Okay, I'm gonna do one more and then I'm gonna start trying them out of the bank. I think I'm gonna go 5 on the bank to start and then see where we go from there. Gotta finish on a good one though. There we go. All right, 5 tray flips out of the bank. All right, let's see if we can get a tray flip. First go. All right, no pop, but second try. We like that. Everything was right, but I didn't flick diagonally forward, and that's why I think it under-rotated. All right, that's 2. That was perfect. Oh, man. We'll take it. All right, 4 down. 5 down, 35 to go. Oh. 9. What it feels like to me is when you flick, almost like in a heel flip direction, but with your toe pointed. If the rotation goes good, the board is just gonna flip by itself and you won't need to flick, because that's the point where it's like already flipping anyways. But if it is under flipping because maybe you got your scoop wrong, then your foot is like there to get it back on track. So I feel like flicking 45 forward almost is like your insurance that if something goes wrong with the scoop, the flick can take care of it. All right, let's do 10 more out of the bank. can see on that one, I flicked like a kick flip rather than a heel flip. And you see how much my front foot like gripped the board rather than like brushing it in the correct rotation. No! Man. Oh, no. Okay, so we got to 20 tray flips out of the bank. Took a good long break because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to have the strength to get to 40, but I'm just gonna start by setting a goal of getting to 5 tray flips on flat. I feel like all the tips and techniques that I talked about earlier are working really, really good. So hopefully we can keep the momentum from doing 20 on the bank, transfer that to flat ground. So here we go. You know, I'm just gonna warm up actually with some open shoulder pop shoves. Get the legs going on flat ground again. Do 2 more. Oh my gosh. Have you seen that little pothole right there? There's like this penny-sized pothole and somehow I landed like perfectly like in it and like just stopped. All right, last one. Right here, get to 5. 1, 2, 4. Oh. So I don't know what happened right here, but when I went to switch the camera angles, the audio disconnected and never reconnected. So there's no skate audio right here. So I'm just gonna talk over the skating and kind of tell you what was going on. So when I started skating the flat ground, things started off kind of better than I thought. But eventually, you know, you see right here, I go into like a lull where my legs just aren't quite getting the pop. And interestingly enough, I feel like when things go good, the tray flip's very effortless. When the pressure's in the right places, you're able to jump up and create enough room for the board to flip. But a lot of times, it's just, for me at least, I don't know that sweet spot. So I feel like I'm having to force it. And so it feels like it takes a lot of energy. But as you see, as I get to these last 10 reps, I start to get a little bit more consistent, and you'll start to see that the board starts rotating right there a lot better than it was before, a lot whippier. And so it gives me hope that maybe, just maybe, on day 10, we'll be able to pull out the 5 in a row. This, you'll see this last one. So I get this one right here, and then 39, and then watch the last one that I do. By far the biggest highlight so far of this challenge. I feel like the best tray flip. Here it is right here. Next one right here. Boom. I was so hyped on that, guys. Alright guys, I forgot to film an outro, but I just want to say thank you everybody for the support during this whole series. The next episode is going to be the last one, and there are definitely times during this challenge where I thought there was no way we were going to get 5 in a row on day 10. But honestly, after that session, I'm really feeling optimistic. So subscribe if you want to see the final video. I'll leave a playlist right here if you want to watch the whole thing from beginning to end. See the whole tray flip progression, the ups and the downs. But thank you guys for all your support. Make every day a Friday, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.